The Tight Five.
She's a 6-point lead now to Minnesota. What a turnaround with less than 7 minutes to go. This is a massive upset on the cards here. And this young Timberwolves side, not only hanging tough, but if they manage to bury the defending champs here, you've got to say that they could well go on and win it all. Xander Schauffele we've got to talk about because we're watching that this morning too, Lachlan. Nerves of steel for that guy. Bayer Leverkusen / Man City, both overachieving this season. Leverkusen unbeaten and Man City 4 titles in a row. Sid gone. If you're of the age and stage generation that I am, we've all got stories about watching Sid Going play. The Crusaders penalty try, the magic round, and the Phoenix. Let's kick that off. Bugger. You were watching it, I was watching it up the pub. I would have thought that 99-minute goal would have just sapped the Melbourne victory because it was virtually the last kick of the game.
It was, yeah.
A big hog up the field and the ball, football, the ball doesn't really spin and bounce as much as it does when the ball is, oval shape and it does in league and rugby. You can get all kinds of queer bounces, can't you? But it's spun in a way that I don't know if Costa Barbarouses was any taller that he would have got his head to that header. It just seemed to be at the perfect height for him to nod, nod across. And then Zavada scores the equaliser. And this, the pub I was in went nuts. I can't imagine what it was like in the stadium. I just think from what people have told me, it's kind of like Grant Elliott's 6 at Eden Park, 2015, to beat South Africa. That kind of reaction where people are just hugging and loving. And I would have thought that would have gutted the victory. Yeah. But instead they regrouped. Fair play to them. They came back. They scored, the only other goal of the game. And I've got no complaints at all. And I don't think the Phoenix can have any complaints either, can they?
No, well, football's a funny game, and it's one of the few sports in the world where you can't really burgle yourselves consistently to results. So, the Phoenix getting to the point where they're hosting semi-final, they absolutely deserve it. And the victory on the day, getting the win, you got to say they deserve it. I mean, the first goal from that guy Traore was spectacular. The Phoenix goal was brilliant as well. Really nice couple of passes. But it wasn't as if there was a penalty that should have gone someone's way or shouldn't have, apart from obviously the Oleksandr one, which didn't even get converted anyway. It wasn't as if there were some terrible decisions. It wasn't like the Champions League semi-final between Chelsea and Barcelona in 2009, which infamously was a win for Barcelona. It probably shouldn't have been. It was a game that was pretty well officiated apart from the penalty. Neither team was significantly better than the other. I thought the Phoenix had a few more chances going forward in the first half, mainly through Ben Old, who had a blinder of a game.
Yeah, he played bloody well.
It was awesome. Mm-hmm. But no, you can't have any complaints. And I don't think the team will. I don't think Giancarlo Italiano, the coach, will at all. And look, the Victory are a funny team because, well, not a funny team, they're a very good team. I think they have the most or tied the most titles in A-League history. They've been there or thereabouts pretty much every single year since the competition started. And their coach is going to be coaching in his 3rd grand final. Now, he's never won one before, but he and the club have experience in these situations. So it's not as if they got beaten by a team who are, significantly worse than them. And just quickly, we've talked about this a lot, the Victory have been a team that have been really hard to break down all year. They don't concede too many goals. They don't lose too many games.
Yeah, we'll talk more about this with Simon Hill in a few minutes. Quick text that's coming. Mate, you just turned you guys on. You probably already have talked about the Phoenix. Lowlife's attacking Alex Rufer online. They're not real fans. Look, I heard the story yesterday. I'm not even prepared to indulge in it. What kind of moron does that? Some faceless, gutless twat, who sits there with cheese or crumbs down his front and suspicious-looking stains on his trousers, sitting in mum's basement tapping away at a computer. Irrelevant. These people are irrelevant. And if you choose to indulge in it, will more fool you. Especially on Twitter and things like that. I keep maintaining, caller, anyone who cannot put their real name and where they work attached to their social media profile, to me, just doesn't exist. They are blank. They aren't real. They are somebody living in a phantasm world, creating different kinds of identities. If you are who you are, say who you are. And that immediately stops this kind of rubbish going on. Because you wouldn't be attacking that guy if you were putting your true name and your true occupation up and then wearing whatever comes your way because of it. He also goes on to say Man City might have won 4 in a row, dark clouds around them. They've got 1 million charges against them and yet nothing happens to them. Well, let's talk about that. And that is a huge frustration, is it not? For every other football fan who loves the Premier League, the fact that Man City got 115 separate financial fair play charges dating back about 7 or 8 years. They won 4 in a row. Yeah, it is I mean, it's difficult because when you support another team, you're only going to get accused of sour grapes. I mean, this team has swept all before them, and they've played brilliant football, but they've done it because they've spent more money than everyone else and bought the best players in the world. They've got a brilliant coach who's managed to get all of those players together. They've won the title this year despite the fact that they lost a couple of players last year, that they had De Bruyne out for half the season. Haaland hasn't been the player that he is, but they've just been imperious. And 4 in a row is undeniable. 6 and 7 years is undeniable. That's something that no other team has done. And I go back to some of the great teams, the Man United sides that won 6 and 8 years, 7 and 9 years, 8 titles in 11 years, 13 titles in 21 years. The Liverpool side between the late 70s and mid 80s, which won about 6 or 7 titles and 4 European Cups during that time. 4 European Cups. This Man City side has got to be elevated amongst those, because if it wasn't for a penalty shootout, they'd be getting back-to-back trebles, and no team in Europe's ever done that.
Well, okay, you can't really say that because that was in the quarterfinals. It wasn't as if that was in the final. It was in the quarterfinals, so I know what you're meaning, but I mean, City still had to get through the semis and then go and win a final as well. But I kind of, I get what you're saying. I mean, it's
frustrating because...
It's frustrating when there's
there's got to be an asterisk beside it, doesn't there? There has to be.
Well, there does in a way, and the thing is that there's going to be this stupid modernised, and you'd think based on my age I fall into this realm, but I think I do an all right job of coming across at least a little bit more traditional than most fans my age. There's this new wave of fans who sit there and say, stop crying, they're the best team in the world, they're the greatest team of all time, all this BS. The thing is that it's a team that is relevant on money. It's a team that hasn't had any real big stretch of success in their history, the way that Manchester United or Arsenal, Liverpool have, and even someone like Everton, who had a lot of success in, I think, the 70s and the 80s, didn't they? I mean, this is a team that really was struggling to stay in the top division for so long, then gets bought by a bloke in the Middle East who's got billions and billions and hundreds of billions of dollars to throw away at anything, and then they go and they buy the best players in the world. The only reason they've got Pep Guardiola is because they can pay him to be the best manager in the world. Year upon year upon year, they go out and they buy more players to make it that they've got about 2 or 3 different squads. And now I sound like a sad and sorry football fan. And that's the most frustrating thing, because I do sound sad and sorry, but the thing is that it's a club that, sure, you're achieving all the success, but it's not like it's born out of anything spectacular. They didn't have a Sir Matt Busby or a Bill Shankly who started things off, and from there, the momentum kept on building after manager, and all these different guys. Something that Sir Alex Ferguson did. It's none of that. It is just money that has bought players. There's no substance, there's no history. And so for someone like me who is probably a little bit more mature and older, I think, than most people my age when it comes to your sports fandom, I sit there and I go, that's cool. Without money, you don't achieve any of it. I'm not interested.
Yeah, it just leaves you with a little bit of a sour taste. We'll talk more about this with Andy Buck in a second. Anyway, 3-point lead it is for Minnesota over Denver. This is so much history has happened over the weekend in terms of sport. We're watching it again in front of us. Here we are on a Monday afternoon. You think that because can the weekend just lay off? I mean, we haven't even got into the Warriors yet in that win, and here are Minnesota, who are just about to do something absolutely incredible here and take out the defending champ Denver Nuggets after being 20 points behind in a Game 7. I'm not sure, and I don't know all the stats about the NBA, obviously, but I'm not sure that any team has ever come back from a 20-point deficit in a Game 7 at home.
No, they just had the stat on the scoreboard, the biggest halftime deficit in a Game 7. I don't know if around home or away, but the biggest deficit was 11, and Minnesota were down by 15 at half-time. And again, the biggest deficit was 20 points.
Wow. Yeah, okay, well, there's 4 minutes to go. We'll keep you updated with this, people. But the winner of this will play the Dallas Mavericks. And earlier today, a Game 7, the New York Knicks just blown away on their home floor by the Indiana Pacers, who play the Boston Celtics. The PGA Championship today, Xander Schauffele. How big is his nut on that last putt?
Well, very big. The putt was very good. I'll tell you what, the camera angle that they had, it was like right in front of the hole, so it actually looked closer than what it really was. No, it's an impressive victory. And look, the thing is, he's done this many times at majors before, where he's been either at the top or in the top sort of 3 or 4 through 2 or 3 days, and then he's fallen away. And when I saw his name at the top of the leaderboard every day, I was like, okay, yeah, but sure, let's just wait and see, because he does this. He just falls away. He's the James Harden of golf. He's so talented. He's so good when it comes to the playoffs. Maybe the Joel Embiid, when it comes to the playoffs, he falls away. But no, it's great to see it. He's had top 10 finishes in all the 4 majors, and he's finished like in the top 2 or 3 in about 2 or 3 of them. So he's always been there or thereabouts. Incredibly talented, and it's sort of about time. So it's wonderful to see this. And the thing is, it's funny because when I think of someone like Joel Embiid, who I'm not really the biggest fan of in the NBA, you know, I sort of used to be, well, I still am like this with James Harden, to be honest, and Russell Westbrook, where they're guys who haven't really gotten over that hump, and then when they do, everyone's like, oh yeah, that's wonderful, and I'm sort of not, because I just don't really like some of these players. I don't think there's really any golfers that people dislike. Maybe you dislike some of the LIV guys, but particularly after LIV, you like the PGA Tour guys just a little bit more. And I don't think people are out there going, oh, stuff this, I don't like Xander Schauffele. I don't think there's anyone who's really sitting there going, I don't like this guy. So no, it's a wonderful story, because it's a guy who everyone seems to be a fan of, going out there and finally getting a major, and it feels like he deserves it as well, because he's that good. How
good is Magic Round? Now, we will save the talk about the Warriors and specifics of games for when Tony gets in here, so we'll do the rugby league hour between 3 and 4. How good is Magic Round, though? You know, to get it right.
Did you see the crowd figure across the 3 days? It was 149, 150,000 around there.
Okay, so you've got to get the occasion right, you've got to get the weather right, you know, because these things do help, you know, and being in Brisbane, Queensland, where it's nice and warm, you've got to get the entertainment right, you've got to get the schedule of games right, you've got to get the venue right, and then people will bring people. This thing just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's one of the most successful sporting weekends of any sport anywhere in the world. Brings tens of millions of dollars into Queensland, and people just tend to love it. You know, could it go anywhere else? Could they have Magic Round of the NRL anywhere else?
No, they certainly couldn't do it in Melbourne, because it just wouldn't get the attention it deserves. I don't think they could do it in Perth, because again, none of the teams are from there. The thing that makes Brisbane good is that Queensland is very much a rugby league state, and Brisbane is a rugby league town. And you look at the Broncos' figures year upon year upon year, even before the Dolphins turned up, obviously, and since the Dolphins have turned up, every year they have the best average of fans. It's something around 30 to 35,000 every single year. They never struggle to get fans. So it makes total sense. And it's sort of the unofficial home of the Kangaroos, I think, is Suncorp Stadium, or Lang Park as it used to be known as. It might do a ride in Auckland for a year or two, and then after a while it would lose it. It's a bit like the Nines. It just wouldn't be that interesting after a while. But in Brisbane, they just love their league. They love it so much. And so I don't think it'll ever struggle. All
right, say something nice about the Warriors then.
Oh, fair play to them. I didn't watch all the game. I was busy yesterday afternoon. I saw bits and pieces of the first half. I said this to you when we got in this morning, and I'm being genuinely honest. You know I don't like the Warriors that much.
10-point lead now for Minnesota.
Yeah.
It's over.
With the Warriors, there was a moment where the Panthers scored early, and then the Warriors had a couple of good sets. Montoya had a really good run on the left side where he cut in and broke through a couple of tackles. I thought they're actually showing a fair bit here, and then they scored their try, and then they kept kind of going. They didn't really shy away. At the end, when they went behind by 4, I just expected the door to be shut then, and they wouldn't come back, and they did. One thing I'll never fault about this Warriors team, and they showed it last year, and they're showing it in parts this year, even against the Roosters. They showed it against Melbourne to an extent, apart from that last try to Xavier Coates. They don't give up. They've got heart, and they've got a backbone. They don't give up, which is good.
Final topic, and we'll talk about this more with James Smith shortly, but you watched Usyk versus Fury. I watched Usyk versus Fury. Fantastic fight. But it was won by the right guy.
Oh, so
no question about that.
I was having
how one judge got it that Fury won that fight. How he scored that.
Oh, because this happens. This happened in the second Usyk-Joshua fight, I think. Or it happened in a boxing fight not long ago, in the last year or two, where a bloke gave the win to a guy who didn't deserve it. It just happens in boxing. And I guess it happens in MMA.
I asked James about the scoring.
Yeah, spectacular fight. And it's funny because my flatmate who loves his boxing, and I usually turn to him and bow to him as the expert when it comes to these things, he said, and he's been a big Usyk fan for years, he said that Usyk will find his way into the fight. So the first few rounds, it could be Fury who has the edge after the first 5 or 6. Then Usyk will start to really get into it. And that's exactly what happened. Usyk won the first couple. Fury really landed a few good punches, but then it was about round 7 or 8 where Usyk started to find his feet, and it was round 9 where he should have put Fury. And Fury was saved by the bell, and he was saved by the ropes. Had he been in the middle of the ring, he would have been down, and that would have been a knockout. But no, great fight. Right guy won.